And one of the questions people always have is, well, I don't know about that modular stuff. I don't know what it looks like. I don't think I really want it in my community.
Right.
And so for us, this is a really big win. We're a really big high-profile community here. Bring housing to areas that need it in a rapid manner. And so, Calgary, we've obviously got we've had 100,000 people move in last year. We've got a housing issue. Well, there's an opportunity. Jasper, we've had some massive fires. We need to rebuild there quickly and affordably. Well, we've got an opportunity. We can build it in a factory. We can bring the same cost base we're doing in Calgary here to a place that's a little further out, has less of a trade base, has 3,000 homes needed in a very short period of time. How do we do that?
This is where we need to go as an industry. The net zero side of things, what modular brings you as far as repeatability and again, just around the details that are needed, that just fits really well into what that same thing, the details that are needed for net zero.
Fuck you and your bombers. I know. We always rip each other. Fuckers beat us how many years in a row now? I know. Okay, for real though, we're gonna interview, and we need you working in the background, so it looks like someone's working. Can you do that?
Here's a shovel.
I'll try my best.
There's areas I'm not comfortable with, and that's one of them.
We're looking at you or looking at him? That's what I thought.
Am I looking at them?
You looking at me, looking at you.
I'm looking at you, looking at him, looking at me.
Right. Well, hello and welcome to the trailer overseeing the craning today. We got Ryan, Scott, Chris Williams with Avalon. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
We're in Seton, here in Calgary, the southeast part of Calgary. That's correct?
That's correct.
And we happen to be on site where this is going to be, help me out here, there's 4 buildings.
Yep.
All net zero.
All net zero.
All modular.
All modular.
First time using modular construction.
Second time.
Second time. Not the first time doing net zero. You guys are very well known for that here in the city.
First time net zero modular.
First time net zero modular. There we go. So maybe can you walk us through a little bit about maybe what we're going to see here today and or how a project like this maybe all comes together. Ryan, why don't you start?
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. Our initial step into modular was probably 5 or 6 years ago. Went okay. Saw the value in modular, saw what we could achieve, and I don't think we quite got there on the first one. And then Chris met you as part of the Net Zero pilot project.
Yep.
And started talking about this guy he knew, Alex, who was doing this cool stuff and how we should start looking into it. And I think that quickly morphed in our minds to, well, can we find a project where we could try it out? And this piece of land came available where we're going to have our office on it. So it became a really nice touch point where we're going to be in our office looking at the modular stuff. And one of the questions people always have is, well, I don't know about that modular stuff. I don't know what it looks like. I don't think I really want it in my community.
Right.
And so for us, this is a really big win. We're a really big high-profile community here. And when we walk in the front door of our office, right there is our modular stuff, where we're able to point at it and go, oh, well, did you see those homes when you walked in? Those are pretty nice, weren't they? Yeah, that's modular. So that was kind of my gist. And I don't know, Chris, if you have a different take?
So it's a special project then for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and all I would add is it's kind of always been in the back of our minds that this is a route. This is where we need to go as an industry. There's just the detail around how it's done, building things consistently, having controlled environments where we're building it. Selfishly, on the net zero side of things, what modular brings you as far as repeatability and again, just around the details that are needed, that just fits really well into what that same thing, the details that are needed for net zero. So yeah, it was just a great opportunity to kind of marry those together.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we have a little bit of action happening behind us right now. I think the first building that's being craned is a 10-plex, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
A total of 15 modular pieces.
Yep, 15 modular units, 10 units.
10 units, 15 modular pieces. Been here for a couple hours this morning, and looks like that first level is already down. So hopefully we'll get to see some action of the second level coming together. You talk a little bit about the details and maybe about modular and maybe how the industry, maybe it's aligned to be able to go down that path. But you also talked about net zero, and yeah, that's right. Thanks for reminding us, Ryan, about that is actually how we met and developed a relationship years ago on being a part of the CHBA, the net zero pilot project. Can you maybe just explain a little bit more about how you see those two things marrying? Like you've had I think both of you had an opportunity to tour a factory. Maybe just elaborate a little bit more on that. Maybe start with you, Chris.
Yeah, maybe I'll steal something I've been using anyway from a really smart guy at Seton. He'll know who he is, but it's build a better blender. You've got a design, and every single part's exactly the same. The sequence that you build it is exactly the same. So your product is consistent always. But in housing, you can meet code, or you can meet the structural requirement in many different ways.
Yep.
But if there's many different ways, one of them has to be the most efficient. There's no way that one is the same efficiency as the other if they're different.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
So in the factory scenario, and what we got to visit in the factory is exactly that. You're literally laying it out that each stud is in exactly the same place. The way you detail your windows, it's the same every single time. You're in that controlled environment with a list of how you go about things so that it's the same all the time. Hopefully, you're doing that in the most efficient way. And if you're not, when you change it once, and it continues through the next one. So that's really where I'd say that we're getting at.
So, yeah,
and I'd build on that saying, I mean, it's net zero is kind of our passion.
Yep.
And the factory actually accentuates that by taking what's difficult to do on site is some of those net zero air tightening things, and much easier to do in that controlled factory, and making that sort of easier and more of the norm. And then I think secondary to that is the opportunity, the business opportunity, to be able to very quickly move between different projects and different sites and have a very consistent quality product that we can put on those. So in today's world, obviously there's an affordable housing issue. We're looking at this saying, hey, there's an opportunity here to make this modular very affordable, very consistent, and something that we can move in different areas very quickly. Whereas we only have the capacity for a certain amount of site build, so this becomes additive to that. So now we can add more product into those communities that need it in a very rapid fashion.
So seeing how this is one of the larger experiences you've had with modular, or one of the first times you've toured the plant, to the average person who's listening to this or who's watching this right now, what's maybe surprising to you that someone doesn't see right now? Or like when you walk through the factory, what is it that's surprising to you? Say, oh, you wouldn't actually understand that if you just saw this. Is there anything you would share?
I mean, right off the bat, you look at it, it's a white box with some windows in it. It's done. It's finished inside. This blows everybody's mind that I talk to. They come back and they're like, well, yeah, okay, you've got the box and it's got drywall in it, but you still got to get all this stuff done. And that's going to take a lot of time. And what you can't see from this is that the lights are in, the toilets are set, there's actual appliances laying in the building. If we had roads and power to the building, these would be occupied in 2 months. We'd have people moving into them. I mean, we had one of our site supers joke. He opened the door and he looked in and he said, okay, well, this afternoon we got people moving in. Let's get the crane out of the way. And it looks like you could do that. That blows people's mind. That blew my mind, kind of walking through the factory, seeing here's your floor getting built to, at the end of the factory, they're rolling it out and they're cleaning the unit. And
completely finished on the inside.
It's completely finished on the inside.
Yeah,
that's kind of pretty cool.
Yeah, that's for sure the biggest one, and certainly it it was neat to see some of the things you can do when you have a roof over your head.
Yeah.
You can build from the inside
like
and
building
the outside.
in the factory,
Yeah, in the
what
factory
you could do.
at the same
Yeah.
time. You can put the floor on, like the finished floor on top of the framing right out of the gate, and then build on that. Like there's just a lot of efficiencies there. But I think the piece when it comes to, what's the difference? Like is it going to look different when we move in? Really, it was also surprising that it's the same process, but there's a roof over your head when you're building it, and so there's some tools that you get, some cranes that you might use or whatever to make it more efficient. But it's the same material, it's the same windows, it's the same drywall, it's the same everything.
Just built indoors.
It's just
so you can benefit on the
right. Yeah, when you like if you could walk in, I already did today. I walked in the first unit that was dropped, and it looks just like our project actually just across the street here, but on the day you drop it in. So
very cool.
Same.
It's actually pretty cool that our office is going to be here, our modular units are here, and our stick frame units are there. So this is Avalon from that street to the C-train right away over there, and we've got all different examples of our different construction techniques. And at the end of the day, you see, that the average person walking through is not going to know how we built it, and not going to care.
Right, and actually that's what I found. I think a lot of times misconception is that modular construction is just a type of construction.
Yes.
There's stick frame, there's panelized, there's modular or volumetric, different words, but they're just a type of construction. I have had some people, I think, be confused as to, the zoning doesn't allow for that. It's like, well, you mean the zoning doesn't allow for an advanced manufacturing way of building, right? So I think sometimes there's a misconception with that too. But yeah, good point about how you don't see it, but it's finished.
Yeah.
You can move in tomorrow.
Yeah.
The site was done, right?
That's right.
Yeah, good point. So we're here today, and we're now seeing it come together, but there was clearly steps that were required before we got here today, and there's steps after.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk a little bit about some of the steps prior, with respect to, does Calgary do have they ever done modular construction really before? I know you said you dipped your toe in a number of years ago. How was the permitting process, and how did that timing work? How did that fit into, I guess, some of the regulatory approval processes here? Who wants to jump on that?
Maybe I'll give a general overview picture, and Chris, maybe you can talk about some of the specifics.
Yeah.
I'd say generally it is different because you are in building in a factory. You're not building on site, so you have the opportunity to start building when you want. In this case, we a little bit jumped the gun. The process is just a little bit different, and so some of the key steps along the way are a little bit different. And when you're talking again about permitting as sort of one of those first steps, it was an interesting challenge we had in that we, right or wrong, pulled the pin a bit early and had some units built. And we thought we'd be well through the permitting process by that point, and we had some challenges along that way. And maybe, Chris, if you want to talk about...
Yeah, I think in general on the net zero side, because it does affect the schedule. The City of Calgary is very supportive in that they have the green buildings priority stream. So if you're building to a certain level of energy efficiency, they want that product. So they've got a system in place that helps you move through that development permit process pretty quickly.
More like a fast track process. And
then you've got a construction process that can move very quickly, or at least concurrently with other things that are happening. So you get that false sense of we're rolling here, well, let's roll there, and we're going to meet in the middle. But where you run into the challenges, I think, on anything, not just modular, is in the trenches when it's the folks that are the ones that are on site or doing the review of the details and those kinds of things. Initially, even I think when we first started talking, have you done modular before? Yeah, we've done it before.
Yeah.
But it's not that easy. Because you done it before and it didn't work doesn't mean you know how to do it and make it work.
Yeah, fair.
And so right away we heard a similar thing, which is just making a phone call and say, hey, I'd really like to go through the details here to make sure we don't run into any issues at that building permit stage. And the answer was, we've done modular at Calgary before, it's fine. And then when you really start digging into it, our architect hadn't been through it before. The So the details are a little bit different. The sequencing of when we tried it, 6 years ago, and what are the details that we need to work through first. So there was a lot of learnings there,
Right.
and we're still working through some of those details.
And likely not just the learnings for yourself, but probably also the municipality,
Absolutely.
the reviewers themselves, like you said, the consultants.
Until you dig into it, until you get into the trenches and really start looking at it. It's really easy to say, oh, this is built to, this is a national building code. It's under CSA. Oh, okay, well, we're good then. It's not that easy. And the more you dig into it, the more you find out.
It should be that easy.
It should be.
It maybe should be
and we'll
that
get there.
easy.
Okay. I think the hope is we won't get there today, but that's, I think, both of our goals. But when you connect it together, who's looking at that? It's no longer in the factory.
Right.
You plug it in, plumbing, connecting, all those details, fire, safety, everything. When you really start digging into it, it wasn't as easy, and really that's what's continues to contribute to some delays. And like Ryan said, we're able to move faster on a few things. But there's that one stream in the middle that's work.
Yeah, and so
the opportunity here, one, learning. Okay, well, here's what it is. Here's what the challenges we've had. The opportunity, I think, is to be able to say, long term, when we get a development permit, the building permit is already approved because we're using a national building code approved product, and really what that means is the rapid ability to deploy. Bring housing to areas that need it in a rapid manner. And so, Calgary, we've obviously got we've had 100,000 people move in last year.
Right.
We've got a housing issue. Well, there's an opportunity. Jasper, we've had some massive fires. We need to rebuild there quickly and affordably. Well, we've got an opportunity. We can build it in a factory. We can bring the same cost base we're doing in Calgary here to a place that's a little further out, has less of a trade base, has 3,000 homes needed in a very short period of time. How do we do that? And when we look at some of the impacts of different fire areas, I mean, they're 5 years ago and there's like 5 houses built.
Nothing's built,
It's ridiculous. There's opportunities, and I think that's what we're trying to prove out here is that, there's some hiccups on the get-go, but if we can work with the municipalities, provinces, federal, there's an opportunity here to move very quickly to change the dynamic of some of these larger challenges we're having and say we can deploy very quickly. And for, the reality is we have investors, we have partners in our background that are loaning us money to get these projects through, and they need certainty. The more certain it is, the quicker we can go, the more affordable we can go. The less certain it is, the more they're saying, well, wait a minute, have you done that before? Well, what's the municipality going to think of that? They start creating roadblocks.
Product to market and certainty.
Yes.
And actually, you think about it, not only has it been a huge pressure on obviously citizens living here, on builders and developers and trades, but it's also been probably a big burden on the municipalities trying to move that money through. So maybe having a pre-approved product actually helps remove the burden on municipalities.
That would be the hope, is that as we develop this product, as we're able to move it out and deploy, we're able to very quickly move through some of the stages, the gates that are there, and be able to say, hey, we recognize a need. We can be on the ground. We can be in the ground in a 3-month period instead of a 1.5 year period. We can be going. And that changes the dynamic for a builder, that changes the dynamic for an investor, that changes the dynamic for a municipality, and the end consumer who's desperate for a house. We've got one faster for you.
And this is a big scalable solution.
This
actually could really help solve some of both the housing crisis that Calgary, Alberta, Canada faces, and the productivity crisis that you hear more and more as we're coming out of COVID. Okay, so we talked a little bit. So maybe last question. We talked a lot about, kind of how we got here. You can start to see what it looks like as it's coming together. Chris, I'm going to ask you, now what? After today, now what? People are moving in? Or how do we, what are the next steps?
I might sleep there tonight.
All right.
Anyway, so like I said, the interior is done. You can do the exterior as well in the factory. It could show up complete. The architectural detail that we chose, we just decided it's going to be easier for us to do that on site. But that's sort of a bolt-on after. So, so that ends up it's a pretty easy piece to do. What's happening on the inside is, you're going to have, obviously there's two came together, there's a seam there. We essentially just put a trim piece on and inside's done. We plug everything together. That's already kind of all been lined up, so it's easy to do. So we'll put the siding on, the architectural details. It's going to look like a totally different building. It's going to look like everything here. But when you looked here this morning, there was nothing.
Right.
Now there's a structure. Another month.
Right.
It's going to be it's going to look done.
So some people have gone to work this morning.
Yeah.
We'll come back.
There'll be a building.
And there's an entire building in place.
That's right.
And so the structural connections will happen.
Yep.
The buttoning up, all the waterproofing, the tying in for all the net zero perspective, mechanical, electrical, both on the outside,
we need a road.
Exterior. Clearly you need a road.
We'll get that done. And then, of course, the solar panels on top, that's going to really stand out when we're done.
Yep.
And again, that's just something that we're adding on after. So it's from here on out, it may seem like every other project in that we're going to put the siding on, put the panels on, and it's going to be done. But even prior to that being done on this first building, you're going to see the second and the third.
All come together.
Like we're mid-September here. Beautiful mid-September day. But our bet is by end of December, you're going to have houses people could live in. So from a hole in the ground.
What? Not 3 weeks ago.
Not 3 weeks ago. So in a 3-month period,
yep,
we have livable units, which is amazing. And I think
46 units, I think, is in what will feel like to the neighbors as a 4-month process.
Right.
Actually, that's
what a great point.
Yeah. Otherwise,
the impact to the residents here is a lot less of that noise, the beeping, the hammers.
That's right.
There's a lot less disruption.
There's one day a little bit of beeping and ratchet drills going on, and then siding for a little bit. But it's not like this kind of a project easily could be noise for 12, 18, 24 months.
Yeah, big benefit to the community for sure.
Yeah. And less garbage, less everything.
Less everything.
It's really cool.
Was there anything, I guess, before we wrap up, is there anything that you would like to ask me or anything that you want to share for anyone out there listening or watching?
I think the only thing we didn't touch on is our partnership with Big Block. So Avalon and Big Block, very like-minded around that net zero side, around sort of trying to change the industry side of things. It's a pretty powerful thing too. So thank you as well. And
I think that is one of the bigger elements of our partnership is the alignment, is that transparency, is working through problems together. No partnership, no project goes through without some sort of challenge, and that's really where this has worked well for us, and hopefully for you guys. But I think that's where like-minded people can get together and change the world, and that's what we're trying to do.
I'm so grateful for this. Thank you very much for sharing your insight. To me, bringing industry leaders together to have thought-provoking discussions who truly actually make a difference, I want to make sure that there's an impact in our housing industry. I really do. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to be able to be here with you guys today and to be aligned with you. We share so many values, our culture, and I'm really excited about what the future holds. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm excited that you get to see what this looks like. I'm excited for others to be able to see what this can look like, and I think the future is pretty bright around this type. So looking forward to it. Thank you guys very much.